welcome everyone to the Revenue Cycle Truth Podcast. My name is Josh Bierling, and our goal on this podcast is to share engaging revenue cycle insights and content from some of the leading experts. So today I'm excited because we're going to be talking about CDI and building a CDI team. CDI is very interesting to me because its relationship to the revenue cycle, to care, and to the growing problem of denials. So I'm excited because I'm joined by Kalua. Holly has a fascinating background that includes 20 years of experience in revenue cycle, nursing, and clinical documentation, to include building a sufficient CDI team. So thanks for joining us, Holly. Appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, Josh. I am really excited to join you on your Revenue Cycle Truth podcast. I've been listening to you and enjoying it, giving you feedback. So thank you. What a compliment for you to invite me today.
Absolutely, yes. And Holly has some tremendous feedback. You can check Holly on LinkedIn, and then at the end of this, she's going to be speaking at a number of conferences, and I'll let her touch on that. But to start, let's start from a high level, Holly, because I know, you put an emphasis on CDI and the people, but maybe just to start us out on a high level and give us your opinion of CDI and its importance to the hospital and its importance to people, and just give us some of your high level thoughts.
Sure. I'm going to go way back to high school for that one, for that question.
Perfect. I love it.
I wanted to be a detective, and I thought that would be so cool. For career day, we could follow, the career that we're interested in. And they said I wouldn't be able to follow a detective, but they think I would be a great nurse. And I was like, oh, nursing's gross. I don't know. But I did it, and I was excited, and I found, the passion for people, serving people, that nursing aligned with that really well. And through my years of different experience, when I was a case management director, I kept going to the ACMA conference and hearing about CDI and documentation, how important that was.
Interesting.
And so it was, CDI was kind of a foster child, because all of the other revenue cycle, they have a place. There's, billings together and accounting, and they report to the CFO, and that's clear. But CDI has had the challenge of reporting to maybe HIM, maybe CFO, CMO, and it took a while for CDI to really get traction and support, because we didn't have the same scope and the same focus. I think CDI is now at that place now where we recognize we're a revenue generating department. We do secure the correct and appropriate DRG for reimbursement. And that's how a lot of it was started. I said I was bilingual. I could speak CFO and clinical, and was able to move it forward. Now it's quite obvious that quality outcomes are critical, or value-based purchasing, and that documentation is not something just for perfectionists. It has so much meaning. It tells the whole picture of the patient. It helps us learn things for future trends and how we can care for patients. And as a patient, I want to be able to search online and know, is this surgeon experienced, and how do his patients turn out after surgery? So all of that is important now. Before, CDI was pretty much a side role. And we've continued to grow and grow. And I love the team that we're at now, because we're touching in so many areas. We work with the quality department to make sure that we're communicating to physicians in the same way. Because quality, they might look at a certain diagnosis for a certain purpose. You have case management who's looking at a diagnosis. Is that going to be a readmission, on our discharge stats? And so with CDI, we are kind of in this hub where we meet with dietitians to make sure, malnutrition is captured. We work with nursing, making sure the wounds are documented accurately and captured. And the wonderful benefit from having documentation accurate and timely is all the caregivers are fully informed. Because I know when I came on, I wanted to know what are my concerns for this patient. And so you mentioned denial. So we have a person on our team who she looks at, is this diagnosis appropriate to be on the chart or not? We don't want to misrepresent. The care could be influenced by the wrong documentation. So she helps us learn that when she finds charts that are denied, this is where the confusion was, this is why it's denied, this is the incongruence. And so we get that back up to our concurrent CDI reviewers to watch for that information to make sure it's clear. And of course, as people say, rack proof your chart. I'll give you a moment to comment. I'm just going on and on.
Yeah, no. This is excellent. I mean, what really comes out, just kind of that's interesting to me, is kind of your maybe it's obviously your nursing background, but your love of kind of like understanding the patient and understanding the chart. While I know the coding is critical and everything else is critical, it's just that aspect to me is very interesting, and I really never thought of it from that perspective, as how important it is just for care in general, especially going in the future as we go into medical records and sharing medical records and being able to analyze it with AI and all the things they're going to be able to do. It's just, I can really read that from you. So yeah, that's great. So maybe you could also talk about, I know you've built like a great team. What are some of kind of the dynamics behind like building a CDI team for a hospital, or maybe you could just touch on that for a minute.
Right. So when I started, we had many CDI openings. It was during it started in my current company. A lot of competition during the ICD-10 zone that kind of kept going. So CDS were being pulled and recruited like crazy. So when I started, there was vacancies, and then also the CFOs hadn't really had the ROI presented to them quite in a way to get them to approve FTE. So, one site
Great
had
point.
1.5 FTEs, and I said, well, here's the ROI. For every dollar you spend, I don't know if I should be quoted saying, but it's a few dollars more, back. And I said, let me try with a contractor and be able to prove that. And so it was in a time where you don't add FTEs and you don't bring contractors on, and we proved that. And we brought another one on the next week and another one, and we've doubled our team now because we've been able to prove the value that we provide, both in working with coding. We have an amazing relationship with coding. That is so rare. You'll see at conferences presentations on how to work the communication. CDI and coding, we're absolutely together. We have monthly collaboratives, and we talk about, this is an area we're running into. So we're very transparent and non-judgmental. Here's a case. We're curious, where you were going, and talk respectfully. And it's like, oh yeah, good point. Yeah, I'll get back to my coders, or I'll let CDI know. We're going to try and get more of those queries done upstream for you, so you can drop the case faster. They have only so much time. The other two positions that are very exciting is what we call the CDI educator and the physician educator. So what you find is each CDS, based on their experience, expertise, and interest and effort in research, that's how good they are. We have our own internal educator who they keep track of. What did CMS do this time in October? This is what we need to look at differently. Let me look at your queries. Let's formulate it. So that CDI educator only works with the staff as far as giving direction. Then we have the physician educator who works with physicians to give them feedback. You get, your average days to respond to our queries are, 10 days. We really need to get that down to 3. Let me tell you how, I can support you. And then he will give us feedback, or she, this query was a little confusing. Can we put this differently? So we go back and forth, and we just continue. It's just a continuous progress of improvement and fine tuning. And the staff feels so supported now, so supported. I mean, they tell me, we don't worry about anything. We know, every time I'm having one-on-ones, what can I do for you? Is there anything I can do to support and help you be successful? And we couldn't ask for anything more. You provide everything we need. We appreciate your support. And so with that, we have metrics like anyone else, but I don't have to drive the program through metrics. I hire intelligent, highly engaged, high integrity people, and they just do their work. I don't need to micromanage. We just make it happen.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I love that. That sounds just really, really great. And it's just interesting to me and kind of building an effective team. So one area that's kind of also I wanted to ask you about that is interesting, and you mentioned metrics, but and I'm by no means an expert, but I've talked about CDI before with others. You know, there has been some criticism of some of the, I think, older metrics that were used for CDI that a lot of departments flash around, you know, or drop. And I don't know exactly what they are, but I've been involved in these conversations. And it just seemed like they're maybe not a good, you know, determination of how effective a CDI department is because of maybe its relationship denials or things like that. What, if anything, can you add to that? It sounds like you take a very kind of progressive approach. You're taking this collaborative approach. You're building great teams. You're seeing success that translates to a CFO. So I'm just curious what your thoughts, if any, are on that kind of the criticism that has been leveraged against certain aspects of CDI as being kind of archaic.
And you know, it depends on what team you're speaking with. Some are still archaic, so if that's their experience, that's their truth.
Right.
Ours is, and the thing is, it was started by a CFO approving the CDI thing that's supposed to bring in more money. I mean, it just was that, you know, clear. So in that, you want to make sure you get the CCs, the MCCs, the best DRG. So that was how it was originally started. People that, you know, if you've moved on, I don't give the staff feedback what their MCC, CC, PDX change statistics are. That's not what they hear about. What we want to know is, you know, this is a fair workload we've assigned you. Are you able to get to it? And if you aren't, is that our software issue? Is it this or that? And so I constantly am asking feedback from the staff. Yeah. And
yeah, I love that. Yeah.
So now it's about quality, and the revenue falls in place, because back in the other days, you went for revenue, but then RAC took it back later, or, you know, a third party payer took it back anyway. So finally people are also realizing, hey, wait a minute, we've got to start fighting these people that are denying, because what you find is if you don't do anything to fight it, then you're an easy mark and they'll continue to deny you. So those who have a robust defense mechanism, they seem to experience less hassle because they know their stuff. And our team, they pull in all the rationale behind it, and we have a great turnover rate, and we're evaluating what that growth might look like. Will it be within CDI? Will it be somewhere else? We're just exploring that now. We recognize it's important, as you've mentioned. I do want to say one more thing about, if you have a CDI educator and a physician educator, that those are your key
it does
people
sound great.
to help you to do a remote program. So I started, remote was not popular with administration, because they're like, the face of CDI, we've got to have them on site. Actually, CDI, they have different personalities. Some like to just crank through charts. They're completely uncomfortable with talking with physicians. Others, they'd rather just walk around and talk with physicians. So we find those who like to work with physicians, they're a physician educator. They have a great rapport and respect. They know their stuff, and they are the face of CDI. We no longer have to have 5 people sit in a room and try and help each other. We have that CDI educator that has a WebEx, that has a phone call. So we are now a majority remote team, and that's probably a key reason why I have 0 CDI openings right now in the course.
Yeah, that is so cool. That is really, really, congrats on that. That sounds like an awesome kind of strategy, because I could totally relate to just, you want to have the right kind of strategy. Physicians are a huge part of this, so you want to have the right strategy to deal with physicians, and that's just such a good point. Well, it sounds like you kind of architected a really great organization, a team, and a strategy that's not only about the financial aspects, but also the quality of care and things along those lines. So yeah, man, it sounds just fantastic. I guess lastly, so Holly's going to be speaking at a number of conferences coming up here, and Holly, can you maybe just tell us a few of those conferences? I mean, obviously you're on LinkedIn, but what are some of the conferences you're going to be attending here coming up?
Sure. So I'll be attending the National ACTIS Conference. That's Association of Clinical Documentation Integrity Specialists. And that's in May 5 through 10. We're going to be in Vegas. So I'm co-presenting with Dr. Alvin Gore. Our topic, he's our physician advisor. So our topic is, are you curious, but I spell it querious, about the benefits of a physician advisor, kind of, figuring out what are the different aspects they can do. And we find such variability even within our own system that we felt, we wanted to be able to help people to have a nice platform to build from and hopefully have a best practice.
Very cool. Very cool.
Oh, and the other one, sorry, is Becker's Conference in Chicago, October 13 through 16. I'll be a panelist speaker for there. So loving healthcare. And I just want to say to nurses that you can do so many different jobs. CDI is not for everyone, but it's great if it's a good fit for you. So just continue to explore all the healthcare opportunities till you find that one that's right for you.
It's such a great way to end. Yes, that was fantastic. Well, thanks, Holly, for joining me on the podcast, and appreciate your time and such great feedback.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, bye-bye.